question is tricky in that I think a lot of people saw that it was a non-right angled triangle and thought about the area formula that you are given on your formula sheet, half AB sine C, and then try to apply that formula to this triangle. Sadly, because you've got a side and two angles rather than two sides and the angle in between, it's not that straightforward. There are a few ways of tackling this question. However, I think the most straightforward is to split your triangle down the middle to make two right angled triangles. So I'm going to have a right angle in the middle here, and I can then work with that to find the height of my triangle, and then I would have the base and the height, and I could work out the area of the triangle in a normal fashion. So if I take that triangle out, and quite often I would do this, draw it out separately so that you've not got everything on one diagram. I've got 54 degrees. This length at the bottom is going to be half the whole length, so it's going to be 6 centimetres. I want to find the height of my triangle, and so I can then think about how I can work that out. Now if I've got a right angle triangle and I've got angles in there, it means I'm going to need to use trigonometry. So I want to think about my SOHCAHTOA and identify which rule it is that I need to be using. So from this angle, I've got the opposite and I've got the adjacent. So this side here is the opposite, this side here is the adjacent. So if I look at my rules, the one that's got opposite and adjacent in it is this one here, so I need to be using tan. And my tan rule states that tan of my angle, which in this case is 54, equals the opposite side divided by the adjacent side, which I know is 6. Then I can rearrange this to know that my opposite side, which is the height of my triangle, is going to be 6 times by tan of 54. So at that point I can then get my calculator and type this in. So my sine, cos and tan buttons run along this line here in the grey buttons. So I can type in 6 times by tan 54, don't need to use any inverse tans or anything like that, and press equals, and it gives me a side length of 8.25829153, and so I've got a long number there. Now what I want to do is keep that as exact as possible, so when I'm working out the area of my triangle I need to do a half of the base times by the height. I know that my base is 12, and I know that my height is what I found up here, so the 8.25 and so on. So I want to keep that exact answer on my calculator and do this calculation. So you can either do answer times, or if you just leave it on the screen you can just do timesing it by 12, and then to find a half of something I can just divide by 2. If I then press equals, it's going to give me an exact answer for my area, which is 49.5497, loads of other bits. And again, I then always need to refer back to the question, what level of accuracy do they want? In this case they wanted 3 significant figures, so that means that I'm going to be rounding my answer to 1 decimal place. So 49.5, when I look at cutting it off, I've got a 4 after where I'm cutting off, so therefore I leave it as it was.